Hello, 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 and welcome to the very first episode of the For the Mothers podcast. I am so excited to be here, to be bringing this forward, and I'm so honored that you are a part of this. Now, in full transparency, I had originally recorded the very first episode a couple of months ago. So in January, I decided I'm going to do this podcast thing. I'm going to try it out. And I recorded an episode that I love and I will air later. But in the process of me saying yes to this experience in life and now has been a deep transformational experience and probably one of the deepest of my entire life. And I am still well in this portal, well in this experience of my own regeneration, my own healing, and it's big. And so much has shifted and downloaded into me and come so crystal clear as to why I'm here and what I want to offer, what I want to bring forward in this podcast, in my business, and also just as a frequency that I want to hold on planet Earth, to bringing it into reality that it can spread and be part of how we move forward in this world. And it really all comes down to the concept of regeneration. Regeneration. And it has been profound in my life in shifting so much for me. And so since it has become a foundation of myself, and since it is a foundation of my work in this podcast, I want to talk about it tonight. I want to talk about what it means, how it's coming forward, what it actually looks like in practice. And we're going to start with a definition and then talking about regenerative agriculture. Now, don't lose me here. Stay with me because I promise there's a purpose to my madness. So let's start with the definition of regenerate. Okay, regeneration. And this is from the American Heritage Dictionary of English Language, the 5th edition, if you want to look it up. All right, I'm just going to read a couple. So the first, to replace a lost or damaged organ or part by the formation of new tissues. Meaning that if something is damaged or lost, that in its place, new tissue can grow. Absolutely new. Regeneration from nothing or damaged to whole. The second is to form, construct, or create anew. Create anew. To give new life or energy to, revitalize. To become formed or constructed again. New life, right? Newness from nothing or broken, new whole life. And the last one says to undergo spiritual conversion or rebirth. But to me, regeneration is a step beyond rebirth. To me, there's this death portal, this death experience, right? And whether we look in nature, we look in our own lives, we all have these experiences of death. They can literally mean losing someone close to you, but it can also mean death of self. It can be, changing jobs. It can be moving. It can be going to school. It can be undergoing an actual transformation of a death of maybe old belief systems or this old construct that you had. And a very big one for a lot of women that we go through is the death of birth. When we become mothers, it is a death portal for us, right? And so for me, rebirth is the moment after the death. It's when the death has settled, when we've given it time to ruminate, to be in stillness, to be in soft space. When we've given room for the pause, for the discomfort, for the shadow. And once we've moved past that, we have the rebirth, which is the initial planting of the new seed. It's that initial moment for me in my own system, in my own belief, that it's that initial space of when there's a possibility, an option for growth. And then regeneration for me is the entire experience after the seed has been planted. It's the tending of the soil. It's the honoring of the ecosystem, the taking care of the ecosystem. It's the entire process from the seed being planted all the way to the blooming of the full flower or tree or plant. Regeneration to me is that entire process that gives room and space for the death experience. It honors that fully. And then it moves into the birth, into the gestation, into that seed. And then it's the full experience and process from getting that seed from a seed to the full grown plant, tree, flower, or in our case, humans, us, our own regeneration. And I learned about this concept of regeneration, and maybe you've heard it often through regenerative agriculture. And this is something that has been really prevalent in my own life. My family and I are looking at land and looking at starting a regenerative farm, having animals and food forests and a whole ecosystem on our land that can feed us and feed others, that honors the land in a way that our modern day farming really doesn't. And so I've gone deep into trying to understand regenerative agriculture. How does it work? What does it look like? All the pieces and parts of it. And I am no way an expert. I am still learning. This is about the last 6 months that my family and I have been learning about this. But just in the pieces that I've been able to start to understand and grasp, it has been profound in my own healing. One of the biggest disservices that I think we have been told and taught is that we are separate from nature. And if you think about it for a moment, our tissues, our being is literally made up from nature because we get our sustenance from water and from food, from plants, from animals, from things and species that are literally part of the planet, of Earth, of nature, which means that we too are part of nature. And so if we start to learn how nature works and we start to honor the cycles and the rhythms of nature, and we start to understand if we can heal the planet, we can also heal ourselves. And if we can really understand what it is that heals the planet, we can also start to understand concepts to apply to ourselves of how to really heal. And this is where the concept of regenerative agriculture has come in the more that I have learned and been able to relate it back to myself. So for a moment, I want to read this definition because I think it's important as well, in case you have no idea what it is. And I just want to talk about how it works just for understanding. Now, don't let me lose you here. It might get a little intense for a moment, but I feel like it's important to land this definition here. So this is from regenerationinternational.org. If you want to kind of go on and learn more, I mean, there's tons of websites that you can learn from and people you can learn from as well. And I'll drop a few of my favorite down in the comments or in the description. But here we go. So the key to regenerative agriculture is that it not only does no harm to the land, but it actually improves it, using technologies that regenerate and revitalize the soil and the environment. It leads to healthy soil capable of producing high-quality, nutrient-dense food while simultaneously improving rather than degrading land and ultimately leading to productive farms, healthy communities, and economies. It's dynamic and holistic, meaning that there's multiple approaches, multiple ideas that are going into this concept, but really the ultimate landing point here is that it does no harm. And in the process of doing things this way, of farming this way, it actually heals, it revitalizes, it regenerates, it creates anew. And something that's really been fun for me to learn with regenerative agriculture, and something I was told by a mentor in this area, is they said that every piece of soil can be regenerated. Every piece of soil, the most dead, dust-filled soil, which is unfortunately what our topsoil has become, can be regenerated into the most luscious, beautiful, abundant land full of food and plants and trees and life and ecosystem. And I have been just simmering in that concept that every piece of soil is regenerable. And if we are also nature, that means that every piece and part of us is regenerable. No matter how broken, no matter how lost, no matter how full of shame or guilt or embarrassment or anger that you hold, it is all regenerable, no matter where you come from, what your childhood was like, who you were a month ago. It is all regenerable. You can be created anew. There is space that when you take a dynamic and holistic approach to your own healing, that you can be completely regenerated anew. And something that feels so imperative right now on the planet is that what we are doing is not working. And you're going to hear me say that over and over and over. What we are doing on the planet is not working. And I'm going to stick to the United States because that's where I am and that's what I know. But how we are feeding ourselves, the pharmaceutical industry, our allopathic medicine, our care model that is really just sick care. It's a Band-Aid approach. The way we are in school, the way we learn, the way we relate to each other, the way we connect, the obesity, the sick levels, the mental health. I mean, we as a society are so sick, and what we are doing is not working. And so in my view, from where we are, what I believe is that we have to have this death cycle where the old falls, where we allow our old belief system, our old way of doing things, our old way of being, and we just let it die for a moment. And in that space, we allow ourselves space in the stillness, in the unknown, in the void in between the unknown and the knowing. We allow space for that to die, the grieving period. And then from there, we start the rebirth process, and then we regenerate. We create a new system of our food. We create a new system of how we care for our bodies with the nourishment and how we heal things. We create a new how we parent, how we relate to one another, how we relate to self, how we treat and view our bodies. We create a new what we idolize, what we hold so high in our mind. We regenerate our way of being, which will regenerate how we are as a society, as a culture. We will create a new way that maybe for some seems absolutely impossible. I'm talking like heaven on earth, where we know ourselves, where we know our own biases, our own wounding, where we've healed that, where we've come into responsibility, and then we can relate to one another from that space instead of projecting on one another, where we can regenerate how we care for the planet. We can regenerate how we interact with earth instead of just tilling the soil and pouring pesticides and growth hormones to grow now, even though the soil is dead and depleted and it's asking for nourishment. And how often do we do that to ourselves? We are running around in jobs that we don't like. We are spread way too thin. We're working hours that we don't have. We're spending our off time trying to numb out on social media. We're disconnected. We're literally tilling soil that is so depleted that is nothing left to pour from. And right now I'm talking soil of our own selves. We're telling it to grow, to move, to keep going, to produce more. And our bodies, our hearts, our souls are saying we just need regeneration. We need an overhaul of how we treat and care and relate to ourselves. And so I love this idea of seeing how we can heal what is happening in nature, and we turn it towards ourselves. And we as women are so connected to nature because of our cycles, because we are cyclical beings. We honor our cycle and our rhythm and the way we move, and how in different periods leading up to our cycle and after our cycle, there are literally periods where we have momentum, and then where we're called to rest, where we can create, and where there's periods of literally death, of dying, of that stillness, of the void in between. We are cyclical beings. And so as we heal nature, we can heal ourselves. And something that was also just brought to my attention yesterday in my practitioner training program that I'm doing right now. Someone said that our greatest service that we can honor the world is to come into coherence with ourselves. And now coherence can mean many things, but for me, my understanding comes from a little bit of a couple of things. But one of the things is Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about what is possible when our brain and our heart are in coherence, when the waves of our brain and the waves of our heart rate are in coherence with each other, and the states of being that we're able to exist in, the change and the healing that we're able to create. When there's no longer disconnection and a lack of communication, but when we're actually connected and in coherence, that everything is moving at the same rhythm. So you think of the state of fight or flight that most of us live in, that is incoherence. That is incoherence between the brain and the heart. And I want to drop in a step further, especially for us women, because we also have the coherence of our womb, of our space of creation. I mean, we grew in our mamas. And we, whether we choose to in this life or not, we have this womb where we can carry life, and we also birth ideas from this space, from this energy. You can look at it as the sacral chakra if you're into chakras. You can look at it in many different ways, but we have this energy here where we hold, where we create from, where we birth. And so also bringing that energy here instead of a disconnection from womb, from everything that makes us woman, bringing that into coherence with our heart, and then letting these two guide what's happening in the brain and connecting to that higher self, that highest version or expression of ourselves, our soul, if you will. And coming into coherence, then living from that place. Well, how do we do that? We do our own healing. And healing encompasses everything. It encompasses the mental, the emotional, the subconscious, the somatic, the nervous system. It also encompasses healing your tissues, your cells. It also encompasses activating that dormant DNA within us. It is a full regeneration of self. To me, that is coherence. And I think something that's really interesting that I've seen so much in my world, in my healing space, in the coaching space, in my own healing journey is that we have holistic healing, which says it's a whole system approach, or we have integrative healing, but it always leaves out one part for me. But when we look at regenerative healing, it is encompassing all of it, because in regenerative agriculture, the big thing is tending the ecosystem. It's bringing balance back to the ecosystem so it flows on its own. The ecosystem naturally knows how to heal itself, how to move itself through the cycles, how to balance when things are off. When there's an imbalance, it balances back out. The ecosystem tends to itself and can find that space. It's whole in its own. And because of its wholeness, it can communicate and manage. Just like in our own bodies, we have something called homeostasis, which is balance. It's where your body is in so much balance that it can tend to itself. The communication is open, everything's moving, and it's allowing that space and that healing to come back into balance where everything is operating at max capacity. And so if we start to tend the ecosystem out in the world, in nature, and we are able to regenerate dead soil, over-tilled dust soil back into fertile soil. And then if we can tend our own ecosystem, all parts of us, our light body, which can now actually be measured, which exists outside of our body, our own body that we can see in this physical density, the material, the matter that we are, if we can tend to that ecosystem, we can tend to all of it. And then also to the unseen as well, into our emotions, into our mindset, our belief system, our ancestral wounding, our lineage down. And we can actually tend the entire ecosystem, knowing that all of us communicates with each other, including the light body that is around us. And if you want to learn more about that, look at Dr. Joe Dispenza. You can check out his book, Becoming Supernatural. And he talks about this, talks about studies with it. But if we start to actually communicate, we start to look at all of it, we start to regenerate at every level, because our emotions are communicating to our body, to the state of our health. And the state of our health, the state of our tissues, the state of our organs is also communicating to our emotions. They affect each other. And then that also affects the light body around us, this aura around us, this actual energetic experience, this field around us that actually communicates to the environment. It also communicates back to us. And so if we can tend that ecosystem, we can regenerate on all levels. Can you imagine where the world would be? Can you imagine if us as mothers felt completely regenerated after birth? We felt connected to our bodies again. We felt deep love and regeneration in the relation to ourselves, to our bodies, to this new role and to who we are. And instead of trying to get back to who we were, trying to fit ourselves back into that model or whatever the world tells us to be, where we want to bounce back, instead we regenerate. We regenerate ourselves and who we are into this new. We become anew. This portal of birth, whether you ever choose to walk through it or not, is amazing. And it's a death of self. Whether you've given birth 1 time, 10 times, it doesn't matter. It's a death every single time. And when we can find space to honor that death, to honor what is possible in the space of the void, then we can plant and then we can regenerate from there. And if we as women can come from that space of mothering regenerated, of being in relationship to our spouses regenerated, and being in relation to each other, our community regenerated, then the ecosystem as a whole is healed. And on yesterday's call, we talked about healing one means healing all. Healing for one means healing for all. And so our greatest service that we can do is to heal ourselves, to regenerate ourselves, because no matter where you came from, no matter your childhood upbringing, which could have also imprinted this template on you of your way of believing and moving through life, this wounding, but also you add social media and cultural beliefs and things that we are taught from when we're even in a womb, like that our mothers carry in them. And we look at this even foundational belief that the way we give birth in the United States is that it's a medical process. It has to be medically managed. It has to be intervened. We don't allow birth, to be a physiological process. And so what does that implant in us? That our bodies are broken, that my body can't give birth. And then you look at the postpartum period of the breastfeeding lack of support, of the mental and emotional, incoherences that are on the rise, whether you want to call them depression and anxiety or mood disorders. I don't even want to label them, but we are having women who are reaching out, who are needing more, who are needing to be regenerated on so many levels. But instead, we're getting lack of support. We're in our most vulnerable space, and we're getting more disconnection, more beliefs about our broken bodies, about how we're not where we should be, how we should bounce back, and this rushing through this cycle and this beautiful portal that should be stillness. It should be peace and space for us to grieve what is past, and then to be open to planting and getting to know and regenerating on all levels, so we can mother from a replenished point, because so many mamas are mothering depleted. And if you choose to never be a mother in this lifetime, this still applies to you, because so many women were trying to keep up in this masculine society, this masculine run society, where we're trying to run at their pace. And so we're depleted in life. So it doesn't even matter if you choose to never give birth. This applies to you, that you too can be regenerated. No matter where you come from, no matter your templating, no matter your belief system or your health up until this point, no matter your experiences in life, you can be regenerated. And for me, this was profound, for me, when I realized that my greatest gift to everyone around me is to doing my own work, to doing my own healing. This is something I've known, right? It's why in my 10 years of working with women, almost 10 years, excuse me, of working with women, I have been doing deep personal work, but I've still also been wanting to keep up, wanting to get more and more and more and more to show, okay, this is why I can support, this is why I can help, this is why I can heal. When really it comes down to, if I can tend to me, if I can regenerate me, that beyond what I actually offer from my profession is my greatest contribution to society, because healing for one is healing for all. And every piece of soil is regenerable, which means every one of us is regenerable. Every part of us is regenerable. You look at epigenetics, and it's taking this concept where before we believed that our genetics doomed us, right? Our genetics is who we are and we can't change it. This runs in the family, X, Y, and Z. But epigenetics is saying that no, everything can be created anew. Everything can be created anew. So even if something has been in your family for forever, you can have a death of that cycle. You can say no more, and you can rebirth, and you can regenerate and create healing for you. And that's what so many of us in our generation on the planet right now are doing. We're saying this isn't working, so I'm going to create something else. And so that is what I am here to do on this planet. That is what I want to bring forward, is regeneration for women. Regeneration for women, regeneration for mothers, so we can regenerate for our daughters, for our sons, for their daughters and their sons. When we regenerate ourselves and we show up into the world from that place, we are part of healing the ecosystem, into bringing it back into homeostasis, into bringing it back from a place where we are not relating to each other or moving forward from a depleted and wounded space. But instead, we are relating to one another from that space of knowing that at our core, who we are is whole. It's healed. Our original anatomy, which my beautiful teacher and sister Alexandra talks about, is that our original anatomy, our original blueprint, who we actually are, is whole. It is whole and complete. And anything that is taught you otherwise is a lie. It's a fragment. And we can make our way back into that whole, into that original anatomy. And we can do this through regeneration, through tending the cycles of life, the cycles of death, of rebirth and regeneration, knowing that all of those go hand in hand and we cannot have one without the other. So here I am bringing this idea to you because it has been foundational in the healing that I've been able to do in this postpartum period for myself. Moving through so much into what I want to bring forth in my business is understanding that every piece of soil is regenerable. That all we have to do is come back into coherence, meaning tending the ecosystem, into bringing back homeostasis, which is that brain, heart, womb connection to earth, to nature, connecting to the rhythm and the cycles of life. And in that, there is so much healing and shifting and changing. And I am so heartbroken by how many women are struggling as women, as mothers in the postpartum period. How much terrible advice and beliefs and expectations are put upon us. And I'm also heartbroken for our kiddos, because everything that is unhealed in us, we pass down. So let us be the generation that breaks the cycles, that breaks these belief systems that have kept us stuck, that have kept us dense, that have kept us in these low vibrational emotions. Let us be the generation that actually says no more. From here, we're going to grieve it. We're going to honor it because it brought us this far. And in it, there is so much beauty and goodness that came from it. And we're going to let it die here. We're going to let it go here. And instead, we're going to regenerate into something new that is beyond our wildest beliefs, our wildest sort of dreams of what we could be as a society, what we can offer. And it starts with tending, yes, nature, getting back to this understanding and getting our hands into that, but also regenerating ourselves, understanding our cycles, understanding the places in us that literally need to be created anew. And it's not going to look the same for any of us. And that's okay. But in it, the commitment to regeneration, to the commitment to the cycles of life, the rhythms of life. And so I'm bringing this forth because I just have this vision of what is possible when we're all meeting each other from a regenerated state. And for some, that literally looks like regeneration of health. That looks like blood work and bioresonance testing. And it looks like nutrition overhaul and herbs and homeopathy and supplementation and literally regenerating our health, our tissues, our cells. For a lot of us women, that looks like regenerating our relationship to our bodies, regenerating our relationship to our cycle, our sexuality, our sensuality, to everything that makes us woman. That looks like regenerating our belief systems, our relationship to our emotions, our programming. It looks like regeneration of our mother line, of the things that have been passed down from our mothers to our fathers, or from our fathers to us as well, the mother line and the father line down to us. It looks like regenerating the way we move our body and care for our body. It's regenerating the traumas that have maybe been stored in our tissues. It's deep, full regeneration to our entire ecosystem. And then from that place, full regeneration to each other, our communities, to nature, and to the world. And so that is what this podcast is here to do. It's here to help you in the journey of regeneration. It's here to support you if you're saying, this sounds like a great concept, but where the hell do I start? This sounds like a dream. This can't actually be true. You don't know where I've come from. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know who I am. This isn't just a dream. This is real possibility. And if you want proof, look in nature. Look at what is possible through regenerative agriculture and know that because we are nature, we can also be regenerated fully in that way. So this podcast is here as a guide. One of my biggest things in life is I have gone through so many experiences and I'm willing to go first so I can say, hey, here's a roadmap. Knowing that my roadmap is not going to be for everyone because I am not the expert on you. Only you are the expert on you. But my goal is to share my roadmap, to share my experiences, my knowledge, my education to help guide you even closer to where your roadmap is, to what is true for you. And if this doesn't resonate at all, then I hope it at least gets you closer to finding what does resonate. So I invite you back to be with me through this podcast, to join in my membership, to be part of my amazing one-to-one program that is, oh man, I am beyond excited. It is regenerative and it is juicy and full. Oh, and I cannot wait to bring it forward to you. But allowing you to be part of this space, to know that regeneration is possible for you, to know that you are whole, that your original blueprint of who you were at the moment of conception is whole and perfect and healed. And I just want to help you find your way back to knowing that deep within your heart, in your tissues, in the mental space that can become so much chatter. I want you to know that, and I want you to live from that point. So this is helping. This is going to be a roadmap for you and helping you find your own path and your own way. And I don't claim to be the expert. I know I said that a moment ago, but it feels important to share again. I am not the expert on you. You are the expert on you. No one else is the expert on you but you, including doctors, including psychologists, including coaches, including nutritionists, including investors, including everyone. Everyone is a consultant and you are the expert on you. So my goal is to connect you back to your intuition, back to that knowing deep within you, that resonant space where you are in coherence so much that you know what is yours and what isn't, what is resonant, what is not, and it can be your guide. And everything around you just gets to be information that you take in through your system, you process it, you say, is this for me, is it not? And you move on, knowing that you know best for you, for your family. So that is my goal, and I am honored to have you here with me. And I hope you can be with me through this entire journey, through this entire painting that I intend to paint with you. And we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about emotional healing, mental healing. We're going to talk about the nervous system. We're going to talk about tissues and cells. We're going to talk about how to activate your dormant DNA. We're going to talk about our cycles and our rhythms as women. We're going to talk about birth, postpartum, and shifting and changing how we actually move through that postpartum period. We're going to talk about motherhood, regenerating the way that we parent so we can regenerate how these kids grow up so they don't have to do the work when they're 30, 40, 50, and they can just grow up in that space. Full regeneration, full offering from me to you of vulnerability, of transparency, of offering what I have learned, what I have come to know through personal experience, through the immense studying that I've done over the last 10 years. I am the eternal student and will always be, and I'm in programs right now so I can keep bringing and offering regenerative information and education so we have a better space to move forward from. So that is what I'm here to do. That is why I wanted to bring this foundational core aspect of who I am, a pillar of who I am that is now becoming a pillar of my business and what I want to offer to the world. So welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's regenerate together. Let's regenerate the whole entire world. And it all starts with regenerating ourselves first. Healing for one is healing for all. I love that. I hope it resonates. I'm honored you are here, and I'm excited for what we're going to create together. So until next time, have a beautiful day.